Right. So, in addition to the existing class which we discussed about the leave policies, etc. So here we are going to discuss about the permissions part. So as in when we know when we are want to manage human resource management system to manage employees payrolls, employees attendance leaves, all that. So there are different applications we are using now and then for human capital management, like Workday, ZOHO, right? So different CRM, HRMS applications we are using. In this regard, as far as the configuration is concerned, especially when we are working as a business analyst or an administrator roles, it's always important for us to manage permissions. That is something required. So when it comes to the managing of the permissions and all, make sure we need to add the administrator, because administrators are the people who will be providing us the permissions, whatever the permissions that are to be recorded, what are the permissions that are to be fielded. Everything has to be managed by the permission, by the administrators itself. So adding administrator roles and adding administrators is one of the key and important element one to be understood with. Next, at the same time, when it comes to the recording of the permissions, recording of the permissions depends on the kind of role what they were playing. Means, for example, you want to generate any kind of roles in addition to the existing one, wherein we need to see. But make sure we need to select whatever the required form is required. So here we have selected a form which is relating to the leave. Okay, leave form is what something which normally we have selected. This is a form which normally we have selected. For that, whatever the role which are to be edited. For example, you want to edit any kind of field permissions for the director. Okay. So here you can select the option where if you want to select any kind of field permissions to the existing application, wherein if you want to manage all these records, or else if you want to update all the informations, whatever is required, either it can be team ID number, or it can be a date request, or it can be a reason for the leave, right? So all these things. So we need to select all the informations, whatever is needed. Hence, if you can select the set permission, automatically for that particular role, what we have defined and all field permissions will be given for that respective role itself. So this is how generally the setting of the permissions in context to the specific role what we have taken will be. So here for the leave, right? So form is a leave form. Role will be a director, right? Whatever the selected permissions you want to be permitted, so that set permission, so that these field permissions, everything can be done. Next, import and export permissions means if you want to import any kind of permissions or export any kind of permissions and all. So this option we can use it, but normally these are all the predefined permissions which were already there, right? So because this is there are some restrictions for the permissions point of view when we are using some trial versions and all, right? So all the options may not be available here. There will be some limitations, of course. So import and export permissions where we need to identify what are all the import permissions to be done and what are all the export permissions to be done, etc. Next, tabular section permissions means if you want to provide any kind of tabular section permissions can also be given. But majorly what we have to do, we need to add administrator. This is something where we need to do it, right? So you need to add the administrators where they were providing any kind of permissions to the granting of employees, etc. So here you can select add administrator. In this add administrator, you need to provide the name. Okay, so whatever the role we have and all, right? So that role we need to provide. So whichever the role you are going to provide, so that those details will be given, right? So name of the person who is taken care of, and I can give you an admin professional will be as separate. So wherein we are providing leave administrator detail, right? So here you have to select a person who is already been assigned, right? So because I am the person who is managing the application, hence I have given my details over here. Next, we need to select the manage user groups. This is something important. Means if you want to add any kind of user groups, here you can see add user group. So here we need to add the user groups here. For example, add user group for finance team. Okay. Okay, so finance team is what something which normally we have added. Okay, so added criteria, we need to add the criteria here. Okay, for example, departmental wise, because finance department contains management team. Okay, management team means if you want to add any kind of criteria to the existing application, you can add it, so that if you can click on save, automatically user groups and all everything will be added to the existing ones. So this is how generally we need to be updated when it comes to the administration part in context to the admission permissions when you want to configure it, etc. At the same time, configure access permissions only for the view purpose, not to the edit purpose. Administrators, yes, right? So if you are an administrator, we have the permissions to edit that. Otherwise, if it is a user, normally they are entitled to use only for view purpose. Next, report purpose of view event can be given, and if you can click on save, automatically this can be added to the existing ones. This is how generally the permissions we need to create. So when we are working on this HRMS and HCM applications, this is what and how usually leave administrators, everything can be added, so that uh, adding the permissions, right? So creating some filters, configuring the business processes and all, everything depends on the business rules, all that, right? So all these things, majorly the role of a business analyst will be played. So apart from the business analyst, even this can be played even by the people whoever has given a role for an administrator even. Okay, this is how generally this admin roles, etc. All these things will be managed. Okay, this is all about this administrator part, etc. So that tomorrow we're going to discuss about the attendance part. Okay, so attendance summary, etc. All these things that we are going to discuss in tomorrow's session. If you have any questions, please go ahead.